This is a sensor water system that bites the decorative wall. Recently, President Trump has faced a major crisis. The Epstein documents led to President Trump's political crisis. Our focus today will be on Trump and these documents. Let's examine the Epstein documents and understand why they are causing a political crisis for President Trump. We should begin by researching Jeffrey Epstein. From 1994 to 2004, Jeffrey Epstein brought minors to an island he owned in the United States Virgin Islands and exploited them as sex slaves. During this time, Jeffrey Epstein reportedly provided minors for sexual favors. It is said that many powerful people and celebrities were involved here, including Prince Andrew of the United Kingdom Bill Gates and former President Bill Clinton.
Afterwards, Epstein
He was arrested and imprisoned in the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York on charges of sexual exploitation and human trafficking. Facing an imminent trial, he abruptly made an extreme decision. Of course, his sudden death led to a flood of conspiracy theories. Jeffrey Epstein had a list of sex offenders, and there were constant suspicions that some powerful group whose names were on that list killed Jeffrey Epstein. I'll explain more in detail, but especially the Make America Great Again group claimed that the deep state was responsible for killing Epstein. Because this controversy got so big, the United States Department of Justice and the FBI released 11 hours of footage from around Epstein's cell as evidence that he took his own life in early July 2025. The issue was compounded by the discovery of a 1-minute gap around midnight and traces of editing using software, further fueling the controversy. Consequently, President Trump's supporters launched a major backlash, and here's the reason. That's because it was President Trump who used this Epstein to rally his supporters. President Trump started raising conspiracy theories right after Epstein's death. President Trump tweeted that Epstein died because he had information on ex-President Clinton. By writing that, he spread those conspiracy theories widely and gathered supporters. In the 2024 presidential election, he utilized conspiracy theories about Epstein's death to criticize the Democratic Party and energize his supporters. President Trump claimed that the deep state was behind Epstein's death and that many of them had received sexual favors from Epstein. He also pledged to release all related information if he came to power. President Trump's actions led to his supporters, particularly those in the Make America Great Again movement, rapidly rallying around him. Donald Trump indeed became president. However, recently he has completely changed his attitude. Attorney General Penn Bondi dismissed public opinion by saying that there is no Epstein list and no additional documents to disclose. The issue is that this was a massive error. As I explained earlier, the United States Department of Justice and the FBI released evidence that Epstein took his own life, but it was confirmed that this was edited footage. President Trump kept saying he would release the Epstein documents, but then suddenly said he wouldn't. Among the Make America Great Again supporters, there have been cases where they withdrew their support for President Trump. Naturally, the Make America Great Again supporters believed that the deep state was eating away at America, and that by releasing the Epstein documents, they could expose the true identity of the deep state and save the country. President Trump's passive attitude led to disappointment as great as the prior expectations. Because of this, suspicions arose that President Trump's change in attitude might be due to his involvement in the Epstein case. Ironically, the start of these suspicions was Elon Musk, President Trump's closest associate. In June 2025, President Trump and Elon Musk had a heated debate and continued their fierce argument through social media. At this time, Elon Musk made a bombshell statement claiming that President Trump's name was included in the Epstein documents. With this statement, suspicions about President Trump and Epstein began to spread in earnest. The Wall Street Journal reported on July 23 that Attorney General Penn Bondi told President Trump in May about his multiple appearances in the Epstein files, which Bondi had discovered. In fact, it is true that Epstein and President Trump knew each other. President Trump and Epstein became friends from the 1990s to the early 2000s say. It is known that the two often mingled at high society gatherings in Florida. In a 2002 New York Magazine interview, President Trump said he had known Epstein for 15 years and that Epstein likes beautiful women even more than he does.
those beautiful women.
He also noted that most of those beautiful women are very young, reminding people of Epstein's sex trafficking scandal. Due to this, United States media began investigating and reporting on Trump and Epstein's relationship. Several photos were uncovered, which President Trump responded to very sensitively. He began suing media outlets that reported on Epstein and President Trump. On July 18, he even tried to silence them by filing a $10 billion lawsuit, about $14 trillion won, against the Wall Street Journal. He abruptly posted a video on social media depicting Obama's arrest in an attempt to redirect the blame he faced onto Democrats. Some people are even saying that President Trump is putting pressure on and provoking other countries to such an extent that he's crossing the line just to cover up the Epstein scandal. Due to this, even some Republicans are criticizing President Trump. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson said that although this is a very sensitive issue, everything should be made public so that the people can judge for themselves. Matthew Bartlett, a Republican Party strategist, said that the Trump administration continued to spread this narrative externally, but many questions remain. He said they created a monster after coming to power, which is now eroding trust in the current administration. Especially among the Make America Great Again faction, there are increasing cases where people say they are completely giving up their support for President Trump. Public opinion polls are being conducted in the United States on July 28th. Among Republican supporters, 38% said they support President Trump, while 24% said they have a negative view of him. In particular, among respondents who identified themselves as Make America Great Again Republicans, less than 40% gave a positive evaluation of President Trump's response. As many as 17% of people gave a negative evaluation of President Trump, indicating a gradual increase in criticism towards him within the Make America Great Again faction in the Republican Party. In this poll, 90% demand full disclosure of the Epstein-related files. We await President Trump's decision on the matter. Anyway, President Trump and Epstein did know each other, but it's not certain whether he received sexual favors or not. Due to this, the United States House Oversight Committee is contemplating summoning Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's former lover and accomplice, to testify and verify these facts. On July 30th, the United States Senate sent a letter to the Department of Justice requesting the release of materials related to Epstein, as per the federal law's 5-person rule provision. Per the 5-person rule, federal agencies must provide relevant documents or information to 5 members of the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee upon their request. 8 senators, including 7 Democrats and 1 Republican from the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, requested the Department of Justice to release the Epstein materials under this provision. By August 15, however, the Trump administration may refuse to comply, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. The problem is that President Trump's supporters are also facing a dilemma. The Make America Great Again group is demanding more truth, though. However, if this issue escalates, it will undoubtedly be a significant hurdle for President Trump's administration, and the Make America Great Again group may also face considerable harm. If public opinion persists, it was evident they would lose next year's midterm elections. Some Republicans and Make America Great Again supporters are reportedly backing down, leaving President Trump in a desperate situation. He seems to be trying to get out of this situation by any means possible. President Trump frequently diverts attention when pushed into political crises. A prime example is his 2019 summit with Kim Jong-un at Panmunjom. At that time, there was significant domestic political pressure, such as the Russiagate scandal and the border crisis. President Trump resolved the domestic political pressure completely by staging the scene of becoming the first United States president to set foot on North Korean soil. In this context, many analysts say that since President Trump is facing a political crisis again, there is a high possibility that he will choose diplomacy as a way to turn the situation around. He could also hold a summit with Kim Jong-un, or he might use Israel to draw all the media's attention to Israel. President Trump faces the biggest political crisis of his career, with many questions surrounding it. Why hasn't President Trump released the Epstein documents? If his name is in them, why didn't Biden's administration release them? If there are no documents, was Elon Musk's statement just empty talk? We must wait for more accurate information, but one thing is certain. Due to this, President Trump faces a political crisis. The future political landscape will change significantly based on President Trump's upcoming decision. If President Trump fully discloses the Epstein files, it could either prove his innocence or, on the contrary, become a turning point that deals him a fatal blow. However, if he stays silent or attempts a cover-up, it will erode even more trust from his supporters. As a sensitive issue with significant implications for the 2026 midterms and the next presidential election, President Trump's every move is attracting global attention. What do you all think about this situation? Please let us know in the comments. That's it for today's video. Thank you.